Holy Watchmen. That was a very intense hour of television. I had no idea the direction the show was heading with that opening scene of the 1921 Tulsa Massacre. From the preview, I expected police and white supremacy to be central themes, something the original comic and movie barely discuss, but they took it pretty far. To answer if the show was worth checking out, it's 100% yes. HBO is taking this series very seriously and giving this franchise the respect it deserves, with all the attention to detail and quality level of this thing. Like I said, the whole first episode was super intense, but Regina King brought her acting skills and took it to another level. But this is HBO here. I don't know how they consistently do it, but they bring out the best in their casts. Once again, big corporations like HBO and Netflix are giving their writers a lot of creative freedom with how they want to tell their story. This season of Watchmen will only be 9 episodes, and somewhere in the ballpark of an hour long each, similar to Game of Thrones and Westworld, 2 of my favorite shows, so I'm super happy with that format. The creator Damon Lindelof filled this series premiere with Easter eggs. As soon as it started raining squids, comic book fans knew this would not be a sequel to the Watchmen movie that did have some differences to the comic. If you don't know what the raining squid was all about, or that poster in the classroom mentioning the anatomy of squid, Adrian Veidt didn't blow up half of New York in the comics like he did in the movies. Instead, he used a giant mutated squid to scare the world into believing beings from another dimension were threatening Earth. He did this to end the potential nuclear war between America and Russia, in hopes the world would come together under the threat of a giant squid monster that exploded into New York. We see in the papers that Adrian Veidt recently died, but it's clearly not true, since we see him perfectly fine later in the episode doing God knows what. That watchmaker son line he referenced when talking about a play he was writing is about Dr. Manhattan. He was literally a watchmaker's son before he got his superpowers and turned into a deity in this universe. So Old Man Adrian, aka Ozymandias, will have a large role to play. But how involved Dr. Manhattan will be is still a mystery. I mean, he is coming back to Earth. We saw what appeared to be him in the trailer, but for now, Regina King's hooded character, Angela Abraham, will take on the leading role. She spoke about being born in Vietnam and mentioning it's one of America's states, again another Easter egg to the comics. Unlike in the real world, with the help of Dr. Manhattan, the United States crushed Vietnam in their war, forming a new state. But it was very subtly brought up in the comics. It was just a flashback, nothing major. There's another character that we know for sure will be returning for this show, and that's the Silk Spectre, Dr. Manhattan's ex-girlfriend Lori. It's been 34 years since the events of the original comic, so Lori has since moved on from her vigilante days. She now works for the FBI. But Night Owl is nowhere to be seen. I'm sure he's still alive somewhere. We did get to see his owl ship, or maybe that was just another Easter egg. Either way, it looked and operated very similarly to his aircraft. I'm loving the look and feel to the show. The constant references to the original story are great. There's yellow smiley faces and clocks everywhere. The masked police and locked guns are really interesting, and something that doesn't seem too unbelievable. After reparations were given to what I assume to be the black community in America, white supremacists lost their shit. It was called Redfordations in this episode, which tells us Red Ford became the next president after Richard Nixon in this world. We knew Redford was running against him in the 80s comic, but everyone looks at Nixon like a hero in Watchmen, so it was surprising to hear that Redford won. Not sure why the racist group called the 7th Cavalry is wearing Rorschach's mask, since he didn't share in these beliefs at all. He was a pretty badass hero, just a little crazy. The only thing they share in common is knowing that squid attack in New York was a hoax. The 7th Cavalry only know this because of Rorschach's discoveries. He wrote everything in a journal and sent it to a newspaper to be published worldwide, but it doesn't seem like many believed in it. The shiny mirror mask guy is called Looking Glass, and he's looking to be another key player. It's only been a single episode, but I already have a lot of questions, especially with what's going on with Adrian Veidt. If you weren't very familiar with the material, you wouldn't even know that older man was him. His servants just called him Master. Why is he writing a play? Why do people think he's dead? And what the hell are those things pretending to be people? Adrian has played with creating mutated a life of his own, like the squid, or his cool cat. So maybe these 2 servants are clones or something. Possibly AI robots. It wasn't evident in the movie, but the Watchmen universe is slightly advanced because of Dr. Manhattan using his powers to help mankind out. But robots were never really Adrian's thing. All I know is that they still need some work if they can't tell a knife apart from a horseshoe. Oh, and what's going on with that kid from the opening scene of the Tulsa Massacre, seeming to be responsible for the death of Judd? A few more days till we find out how a 100-year-old man in a wheelchair lifted 200 pounds. I'm relieved to know this show is starting off on the right foot. Damon Lindelof must have felt an immense amount of pressure from the fanbase because of the strong cult following this franchise still has. But just gauging by the first episode, I think he did a great job. I'm definitely going to keep watching and making videos. This show has my interest. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching this one.